And welcome back to a very, very special episode of The Flip Side, guys. This is not our normal episodes.
No, it's not.
At all. For one, it's going to be a little bit shorter, but don't fret. It's going to be a little bit more about things that are going to be a little bit more topical in terms of like social issues and things like that. But the biggest thing is that we have a guest from 97.9 The Beats, our midday personality, the one and only Lil D. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's real cute.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't like my intro though. Top rated midday personality for 97.9 The Beat. You know, nonprofit owner, author, philanthropist, etc. That was better.
Ooh, that was way better. I didn't have the fact sheet in front of me, man.
Cool.
No, but that's the thing. You got to plug yourself in, man, because that's the biggest thing about this podcast is that we want people to come in here that are established, that have things that they're doing, like yourself, that people can look up to and talk about real things.
Exactly. And since we're going to have some new viewers this time,
yes,
we got to all introduce ourselves and tell them what this podcast is about.
Right.
Well, my name is Skyler. Brian and I started this podcast maybe about 4 months ago or so.
4 to 5. Well, it was a concept, and then we kind of started doing it about 4 or 5 months ago, yeah.
The goal of this podcast series, the name of it's The Flip Side, and what Brian and I will do is represent two opposing viewpoints, typically from a Democrat and a Republican, and we'll talk about something that's in society right now, one of the biggest things on mainstream media or whatever we're seeing trending on Twitter, and we'll take that and we'll combat it, because it's really, there wasn't an arena to do that. You know, you don't really get to do that too often in today's society, and when you do argue with people, you're doing it behind a keyboard and it's virtual and it's not being able to talk to a real person. So since we started this, we've been getting a lot of positive feedback. And
emails, y'all keep coming with the comments. Let me tell you something, man. Like, I want as much, not argument, but conversation in the conversation as much as possible. I need people that are like, and in the extreme, I want people that are like neo-Nazi or like super far right-wing and super far left-wing to actually talk. To actually come together and actually talk about things.
Exactly.
That's the one element I think that we're kind of missing. And don't get me wrong, I understand that some people's ideologies are crazy out there. I get that. But why are they?
That's true. We might have to take it to a campus series one day and just go around asking people at SMU.
I'm down.
But today we're talking about reparations.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you who don't know what reparations are or haven't paid too much attention to the news, reparations is more or less trying to make on a wrong that you've done to someone.
Right.
And reparations in the context of this 21st century is right now about reparating blacks who descended from slaves in some way, shape, or form by the United States government. This is a topic being talked about by the next leaders of the world. All the 2020 candidates have pitched their...
Almost all. Not Bernie. Bernie said he would do something but he didn't want to coin it reparations, something different. But like you're saying, this is going to be some of the Dems that we're talking about it. Kat, if you can cue that video in real quick.
There are huge disparities in this country based on race.
Absolutely.
And they cannot be denied, and they must be addressed.
This country should address slavery, the original sin of slavery, including by looking at reparations.
We must confront the dark history of slavery and government-sanctioned discrimination in this country that has had many consequences, including undermining the ability of black farmers to build wealth in America for generations.
Talking about reparations, it has come up on the campaign trail.
Issues like this are going to continue to come up in a Democratic primary when you don't have a...
Wow.
Okay, so y'all saw that. I mean, that was, Julian Castro, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He wasn't on the video, but they all sponsor and are for reparations for the black community. Skyler, here's the thing, man. Like I know that you have something to say about it. As a black conservative, not even as a Republican, take Republican out of it. As a black conservative, what do you think, and what are your viewpoints on this? It almost seems like we're righting a wrong, but in the wrong way, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to get into on it. Well, what I kind of want to do is I want to see what you all would think I have to say. I mean, Lil D, you know that I'm a Republican. That's pretty much just about it that you do know about me. What is your take on, first of all, seeing, a black Republican? Do you have a lot of friends who are black Republicans?
No.
And second, yeah, exactly. There's not a lot. There isn't. And I feel like it makes me speak from a different point of view than usual.
Which is respectable. As long as you stand up for what you believe in, I don't care what you believe.
Okay.
As far as what I think you're going to say, just based off of a very generic, what I know about Republicans, because I don't know you.
That's right.
It would probably be, I don't think it's a bad idea, but at the end of the day, we have to stop giving people things. You got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and you've got to make this thing work for yourself. Why are we still talking about slavery in 2019? How can we even prove you're a descendant just because you're the blacks?
Yeah.
All right, I need a new script. That's actually pretty good, honestly. Yeah. So first of all, let's get into it. I am opposed against reparations, and the first thing we're going to talk about is just the economic hurdle that something like that would present. And when you look at what reparations is, it's talking about 14 million slaves from 1790 to 1860 in the United States who were really affected by slavery, who were slaves, right? So what people are trying to do now is calculate, one, like the lost earnings that those people would have had through labor. So like they've been doing calculations on it. This one professor named Dennis Robert is proposing something that's pretty popular. So what he does is he looks at the 2 million slaves that were in the U.S. from that period in time, from 1790 to 1860. He looks at how the U.S. had about 14 million at the time, and there's going to be interest rates and things like that growing with it. But more or less what he's doing is he's trying to get reparations to 40 million at least 40 million slave descendants in the U.S. And what he's proposing doing is thinking like there's 10 hours in a workday. These slaves typically worked, almost all week.
He's trying to calculate?
Yeah, like they go into really detailed. But they're saying like minimum wage back then, calculated over today, would be $7.25 per hour. The numbers don't really matter. So pretty much we're doing the numbers per hour that they lost through wages and trying to apply that out to people today. But the thing is, there's been such a spread of the family tree and such a large descending that it's over 40 million people who could potentially claim access to it. And that looks at his calculation was for at least
over 200 years ago.
Yeah, but his calculation was for nearly $3.7 trillion plus interest rate on that. So it came out to like $59.2.
Who was it?
This is Dennis Robert.
Okay.
And this will be a link that I'll cue into the
video. And that's the thing, man. Is it economically feasible?
Well, do you know how much?
Is it economic? I'm not. This is just a generic question. And you're absolutely right. I actually looked up. How many slave descendants are even part of the black community? There's about 90%. 90% of black people and this is 90% of people who are not just that believe that they're fully African American, but are half like you and I, or have some sort of black descendant, African descendant. About 90%.
Let's talk about that 90%.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's huge.
Does
it's
that
a huge
90%
population.
Deserve reparations? Do black Americans deserve reparations?
That's my next question, and that's a tricky question. And I want to open. Well, it's the thing. I want to open up to you. Do black people? It's not necessarily that, how do we make reparations? How do we make it work? Or if we need reparations, is if it's another question a lot of people have is, do black people deserve reparations?
Why wouldn't we deserve reparations? Why is there a question of do we deserve it or not?
Right.
We wouldn't even be in this country if our ancestors were not stolen from their land, raped, beaten, killed, stripped of everything from their name to their religion, and forced to work, have sex with their masters, procreate, have their children ripped from them. And let's not act like we're not still going through that today. Slavery ended and immediately there was Jim Crow. Jim Crow ended and immediately there was mass incarceration. We need reparations from 30 years ago. Like, miss me with slavery. Like, what do you mean, do we deserve it?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't we?
Well, and that's why I want to get into this, because that just exactly what you said, that's going to be about what I believe about reparations.
And even Black from a generic standpoint, when we were slaves, we were property, right?
Right.
And so if you own something, if I own a house and I die, whoever owns my estate after that is going to get whatever's owed to the estate. Right. So if slaves were property, they died, we're still like the property owners if their blood is in our...
I see what you're saying. I never even thought about it that way.
Oh, okay.
Bro, I didn't even think about it. That's true, because they were looked at as property. So it's almost as if getting your essentially the value of your property back into your community. Because that value was taken out of that community when we first got here. I didn't even think about it that way.
We're not property.
Exactly. We were, though. Unfortunately, under the law,
legally,
United States, we were.
There is no U.S. citizen today that has been born a slave.
We know that.
Not you or myself has been born a slave or anything close to it. And whenever I hear people talking about how just the general population should have to pay for slavery, it triggers me for lack of a better word. But think about Chase Lukey. Think about Chase Lukey, right?
Who's Chase Lukey?
Okay, Chase Lukey is a good friend of ours. He's white. I think he's like got a little German in him, but we don't need to get into that. Chase is a liberal too, right? He's just as far left as I think Brian is. And
oh my gosh,
why should Chase Lukey, a white kid who we went to school with, grew up with, whose family, who's shown us nothing but love, have to pay for something that they had never done?
Right. Well,
do you feel like you'd be vindicated in having his parents
let me counter
pay
for that? No, I understand that. Let me counter that because why did his thing and just think about
you had a lot of good points that I want to get into as well.
But think about that. You're right. So why would Chase, who's not racist, who was a proponent of racial bias, who wasn't a proponent of inequality, exactly. Now, and why would he have to pay for it? Now, let me tell you this: why did black people had to pay into institutions that were oppressing them all these years?
You cannot avoid my question.
But no, but think about it. Think about it. Black people have been only maybe about 5% of all of American history been quote unquote free. Actually, I shared a Facebook post where I broke it down, where their first slaves came in around 1619, and then I gave the Rodney King as like a very, very soft example of racism, because racism it was passing. That was like what, in the 1970s? Think about it though. Think about it. 1619 to 1970, there's been evidence of racial imbias and racial injustice.
What year is it right now?
It's exact, but here's the thing, Skyler. That's over that's over 90-something% of our history as Americans, and we just now are getting quote unquote free. Okay, that's unfair. That's exact. You can make the argument that we're not.
You guys I see you two. I honestly feel sorry for you two. I really do, because I feel like you guys are enslaved by this mindset now. It's like transitioned. It's been from something that was physical, now it's something that's ideological. I think reparations. I for one am never gonna play the victim mindset. I never will.
You saying black people do?
No, I'm telling you that. Well, I think this is what this is. Now listen to me. Let me finish my point.
Can you let the man talk? I want to hear what he got to say.
Hey, this is a weekly basis. But what I was saying before I lost my train of thought.
Victim mindset.
The victim mindset, right?
Right.
I'm not going to grow up my son or daughter and let them know that they can't be who they are going to be because of their skin color. I'm not going to tell them that it's going to be, they can't be who they dream to be just because of their skin color. Right. That mindset is what reparations on an ideological level is doing. It's telling people, oh, they've had such a bad start. Oh, things are so bad for them, and they can't do anything except if Uncle Tom gives them a handout. I find that insulting. I find it incredibly condescending that people want to give me reparations for my skin color. And it's like nobody else thinks that way who is black, and I don't like it. I don't like it when I see that, because I know for a fact you have never been halted by your blackness when it comes down to what you've done in your life.
I have privilege of being light-skinned and come from a wealthy family.
As a matter of fact, we might have already made reparations.
You are crazy.
Hold on. Wait. So what about this? What is affirmative action? What are diversity scholarships?
Affirmative action actually has been shown that it haven't actually worked for the black community.
There's still housing in urban.
Something. It sounds like a throw. I'll throw you guys a bone.
It definitely is.
That's and this is what this is too.
And don't say hood.
And this exactly what I don't like. I didn't like that type of stuff. Diversity scholarships, I think, it unfairly treats white people too. We don't have to get into that this episode, but I got lower ACT scores than some of my white friends and got bigger scholarships than them.
So you saying
just
you didn't
for my
deserve
skin
it?
color?
You say you didn't deserve it?
More than somebody who tested better than me and had better grades.
But you did other things. You were on the debate team. You were doing other things, Skyler. That gets factored in.
I took it. Yeah, I took it.
Oh, okay.
I can't say I didn't take it.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing, guys. It's like we have all these things that we've already done to help out the black families and like to help out in impoverished communities.
Have black people done what we've done for our own community? Or has that's I'm gonna open up for D.
I want to go back to when you said you're not going to tell your kids that they can't be what they want because of the color. You absolutely should not. I don't believe that 1 second. But let's say you have kids with somebody my color and your kids come out my color and your kid gets pulled over for nothing and they get killed. What are you going to tell that kid's sibling? Well, they should have had their hands on 10 and 2 because y'all are light skinned, and I don't know your family, but you sound like you come from a little privilege. I'm black, I'm dark skinned, I have nappy hair, and I'm from the hood. I have been pulled over in certain neighborhoods and asked, what you doing over here this late? Mm-hmm. Is this your car? Do you live here? Get out of the car. You didn't signal. I didn't signal. One time got pulled over by 3 different police cars. Thought I was going to die because I didn't signal?
Right.
What do you say about like I still believe I can be whatever I want to be when I grow. I'm gonna still do everything I want to do, but at the end of the day, I know I got to move differently because of how I look. When a cop pulls me over, I'm scared and I start recording.
That's bias.
Because I know what's happening to people who look like me. Yeah. So it's not about feeling sorry for myself. At the end of the day, you owe me because I can actually trace back to my great-great-great-grandmother who was a slave. I have pictures of her. I don't know what she went through, but my God, hearing the stories secondhand, and I'm sure it was worse than that because she was actually there to live it. Nah, you owe me. Because at the end of the day, I'm the only person, not only person, but like only kind of people who was forced here. Well, I didn't ask to be here. I don't even know what country I'm from. Mm-hmm. Who else can say that? My whole history was erased.
You're from the United States of America.
Nah,
there it is right there.
I was born here. Where am I from? Yeah. What was my name before they changed it? What did I believe in before they gave me beliefs? I don't even know. The government needs to say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry does not need to come in the form of a letter or email.
You know, there's an old saying that you give a man a fish and he eats for the night, but if you teach a man how to fish, he can eat for his life.
Where's our education then?
Oh, and that's what we're trying to do. One of the problems I have with a lot of these urban communities that have usually majority black city councils, they don't allow for school choice. You know, I think we should allow black children to go to where they want to school and pursue the best education they can.
If those private
state
schools
vouchers, there's things that we can do to help people do that.
Why haven't they been used then? If those exist, why haven't they been used? And let me tell you something,
They do exist in places over here like where we live, but it's not going to exist in Chicago.
Think about it this way, Skyler. We came from Lovejoy, right?
Yeah, and this is where I want to touch back on her point.
Well, here's the thing. We came from a community that had a, higher wage. Everyone was at least middle class or upper middle class or upper class. There's a lot more money being pumped around in the community in terms of jobs, in terms of just, things for, the crime is lower.
So we live in a nice area as a result of our parents' success. So what?
That's the thing. I'm not saying that that's wrong. What I'm saying is that,
by punishing the people.
No, I didn't, Skyler. You got to think about it this way, that in these black communities that are impoverished, there has been terming of like redlining in terms of gerrymandering, in terms of police brutality. There's things that disallow black opportunity. Hell, have you ever heard of Black Wall Street?
They burned that down purposely. Killed everybody.
Purposely.
Because there was a black community thriving. They said, we're not having this.
There was an FBI dossier saying that we have to destroy the Black Messiah after the Malcolm X and MLK murders. And you know what came after that?
A lawsuit and a check for his family.
One whole family.
Here's a bone.
That was his family who was affected.
Here's a
yes, that was the death of Malcolm X
and the death of Martin Luther King affected everyone.
Yeah. But that was his family who had the wrong against them.
But guess what?
In legal terms, that was his family that was wrong.
Martin Luther King is bigger than just the Kings.
You're thinking like a collective. You guys are thinking
like
we are a collective.
We are a group of individuals, and beyond. You can't. You guys are.
I'll go into that. Hold on, go ahead.
There's two things I want to get to real quick. One, it's like we're judging so much by color, and you guys, you have to move beyond the color mindset and stop seeing yourselves as like just blacks, but see yourself as Americans. Find pride in that. And the second thing I want to say is that you also said that I came. You can tell that I came from privilege, and yes, we live in Collin County. Collin County is one of the richest counties in the state of Texas, and like 64th in the United States,
right,
or 36th in the United States. That doesn't mean I don't understand what it means not to come from privilege.
It kind of does.
No, it doesn't. My father came from Newburgh, New York, the 5th most violent city in the United States. I've been through it. And listen.
Through it.
Hold on. So you can relate to all these people from 80 years ago, but I can't relate to my own father? That doesn't make any sense.
No, we're empathetic. That's what it is. We're empathetic.
I can be empathetic to it. I can understand it. My father had a similar story. He was riding around with my mother in Chicago in his Mercedes, and he was taken out of his car, put on the street, like on the curb, while they questioned my mom as if like he had kidnapped her, or if he was like, pimping,
Dad black, mom white.
Yeah. And I've heard those stories, and the thing is, I didn't grow up with a father who said you can't just be. He had gone through it. He had been affected by his own skin color. When he was young, he had to go into restaurants through the back because he couldn't. When he was little, he could not go eat in the front, or if he was going to eat in there, they wanted him through the back. So it's like I relate to what you're saying. I don't.
The only difference is you had parents who lived it. Your dad lived it. He was there. But you were raised in the mindset of, look, I lived it. My kid is not going to live that. I'm going to bust my balls to make sure my kid never sees that kind of life. And that's dope.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So you've heard it, but when is the last time you got pulled over because you were black?
Recently.
Really?
What happened?
Really?
I was in a black car, but...
Good damn night.
But it was... I didn't listen to the end of your sentence. I thought you were just saying pulled over.
No.
But I don't think I've ever been pulled over.
So it's like black. Your experiences are different because you have the dad who went through it and then worked very hard to make sure his kids grew up with privilege. And that's dope. We need more stories like that. But until we get them.
And that's what we're both trying to create. You know, even though we do represent opposite sides, I feel like we at least, what we're trying to get to really is what would be a way to help these people out. Because the ones hurting from it the most, I think, are, you know, the 90% of, or 65% of kids growing up without a father in black family homes in impoverished communities. Right. Like, they're the ones really affected by this. Do
you know how that was perpetuated, though? Like, you know, the whole dismemberment of the black family and the jailing of black males, that was the drug war. That was the war on drugs. That was purposely created to create this image on hippies and black people during the time to make them look like they're just crackheads or they're blah blah blah, and drugs.
We don't come from a perfect past. We don't.
But that's the thing. Here's the thing, Skyler. That's also things I was going to go into is that there's precedent for reparations. We gave the Japanese reparations in terms of when they were in internment camps. We can give the Japanese.
Yeah, that was something 30 years ago. That was something like really.
So just time is the reason why. Is that we?
That was something much more easy to trace too.
It's not our fault they erased our history. That's their fault. They gotta figure that out.
That's what I'm saying. Now that's our fault. Is that our fault now? That our struggle is our fault? It's not. Here's the thing. Individually, of course, Skyler, but you gotta think about it this way. You say that we are individuals. We don't act as a collective. But we're the only group that doesn't act as a collective. The Irish, the Jews, the Germans, whenever they came over here, they had a very tribal mentality. You know why? Because they knew if they worked together, that's why you have German towns, everything like that, they could accumulate their wealth. Black people were not allowed to accumulate their wealth because they were essentially being thrown a lot of propaganda and being destroyed by the government that was supposed to protect them and destroy the black family. And then now you have black people like, oh, I need to get out of the hood. I need to get out of the hood. Which, don't get me wrong, I understand that. I get it. But guess what? That money is not being accumulated back in the black community, so that perpetual cycle of poverty keeps continuing because of that. Because we don't act as a collective.
No, it's because you're becoming more reliant and self-dependent.
There's not a black person on this earth that I've asked that asks, like, you know, why are you poor? And they say, oh,
I like being poor.
Oh, I like being poor. There's not a single black person that I know.
Well, that's arguably someone might like being poor. You know, someone might do that.
Have you ever been poor?
That's what I'm saying.
You've never been poor. Trust me, nobody likes being poor.
I've been in college. I've been poor.
That does not count.
But
poor in college.
That was a joke. Okay.
That's how I know you've never been poor.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Poor is when you're scraping pennies together and rolling change and trying to deposit it in without getting the extra 3% taken off at the coin machines.
That's what I'm saying.
That's poor.
That's poor. That's poor.
You've never been poor.
You've never been poor. So not a single day in your life.
So what is it going to be like when one of these poor people get a check for, let's just say, $1.5 million?
So let's get into it. Okay, you're right.
The family gets a check for $1.5 million.
It wouldn't be $1.5 million. But
yeah, the statistic where that guy was asking for $1.5 million.
Well, he's wrong.
At least that should be. That's just what he calculated from lost earnings.
Right. Well, I think he's wrong.
Well, I mean, like winning the lottery.
But his question is, if you've been poor your whole life, what do you do when you get a check for a bunch of money?
Like when people win the lottery, there's a huge percent of them that actually go into debt after they take this on because they're living in a whole different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, it's just a handout that I feel like is in good nature. It's in a good intention.
You could have stopped a handout because it's not.
A handout. Right. It is a handout.
It's a payback. You owe me this.
It is a payback, but I get what Skyler's saying.
We have a philosophical disagreement on who is being owed what, because I don't think that you were affected in it the same way that the actual slaves were.
No, absolutely not.
You know, and it's like having someone else who didn't do that at all, who grew up in a completely different time, and having them pay for that it's just morally wrong to me. To have someone who wasn't affected at all, wasn't a party to the wrong at all, have to take on the cost of people's actions that they've never met, never spoken to, and never maybe even agreed with.
I think where we disagree is the fact that you think we're not affected. Black people are still affected. We're still affected right now. we're still affected. I'm not coming to come see you at Collin County because I'm scared I'm gonna get pulled over.
That's a real bias, Skyler. And that's
the disconnect. No, that's a mindset towards cops that
no, that's real, Skyler. That's just real.
You know, why don't blacks get more afraid when they see other blacks then? Because think about it this way: we're talking about, you know, if we look at black on black crime, 90% of it is always done by
white
other
on
blacks.
white is 86%. What do you mean? Who cares?
Are you scared when you see white people?
No,
because white on white crime is a problem.
It's 86%.
I don't see color.
Actually,
I don't see color. I see character.
What color jacket are you wearing?
I'm talking about
the
tribute
because you see color.
Soul.
Your daddy black, your mama white, right? You see color.
I don't like the black on black crime argument because you gotta just it's common sense. If you look it up, 86% of white people that murder themselves or that murder are in white communities. Why? Because you murder in your own community. You do crimes in your own community.
I'm just saying.
So that's a null argument. It doesn't make
sense. It's not a mindset when police are killing unarmed black people left and right and getting off. That's scary.
If they ever get off,
they always get off.
They have.
Well, guess what? Whenever stuff like that happens, you know, it's before a jury of peers, and it is also because we see the Twitter versions.
Jury system and how biased.
And we gotta try to tie this back in. I know we're kind of tight on time. It is a special, but you know, it's like. Sure, this stuff happens, but it happens for a jury of peers, and they're presented all the evidence. Well, we just see like the Twitter version and everyone enraged.
You're assuming it's their peers.
It comes from their community, you know. It's a community of peers.
You're assuming it's their community.
Unfortunately, Skyler,
that's usually how the
you're good-hearted.
Jury
I
is
get where you're coming from.
Conducted.
You're good-hearted, Skyler, but it's coming from a place of naivety.
You know what?
Like that's you're being naive.
I'm gonna acquiesce.
Okay.
I think
it's a college word. I like that.
I'm going to agree with you. I think maybe we should pay reparations. All right. I think we should look at the people who are responsible for it, actually. And if you trace things back, right? If you really do trace things back, both of you are looking at me like...
I'm super interested in this right now. Go ahead. Keep going.
I think the DNC should pay reparations. Because look at this.
I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
Was behind the Ku Klux Klan, right?
Right. They were conservatives,
though. The Ku Klux Klan...
They were conservatives.
Sorry. Listen, the Ku Klux Klan was in opposition to the Republicans' Reformation era, Reconstruction era, right? That's when the Ku Klux Klan was formed. And its goal was to win white seats in the South, and doing that through campaigning and intimidating black voters, right?
It was
That's something immediately that affected blacks. You know, there's one thing right there.
But those are Southern conservatives. That's not the same as the progressive
the
liberals
Democrats
today.
also created the Jim Crow laws. They were in the majority of Southern states.
They were conservatives, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, they were Democrats. And
they were. Oh my God, we're not going to get into this. But Democratic Party and the Republican Party are just parties.
I think if the Democrats of today feel so badly about it, I think we should let them try this out. You know. Let's let them have it. Let the blue states do reparations and see if it
would be the red states. It'd be the red states. Because the red states were the ones that were the Democrats back in the day. The northern states were the ones that were Republican.
I still believe that states shouldn't have sovereignty and that the federal government shouldn't do something like this. But and I'm not going to acquiesce that on ever. But I think you should do that for your state, see how it works out. You know, there's a lot of things... There's a lot of things that we disagree on, but yes, I think we can agree that reparations.
Okay. Well, that was your closing statement. That was interesting.
Oh, that's not my closing statement.
Oh, I mean, we don't have a lot of time. But that's your closing statement. I get what you're saying. And I'll get into my closing statement. I want to hear Lil D, closing statement. What do you think about reparations, if we can do anything about it?
I think that it should come in the form of, first off, free DNA tests, because every black person needs to know where they come from, country-wise, continent-wise, because not all slaves came from Africa. Most came from South America. Who am I? Where am I from? When you know who you are, you're more empowered. I know that the government and white people in general, no offense to white people, have done a lot to kill our character, not our character, but erase our history because they don't want us to know how powerful we are. When you know how powerful you are, it raises the self-esteem in you as a people. Then you can say, wait a minute. My great-great-great-great-grandmother was a queen. I was a scholar. I know who I am. Now I can take this knowledge, and when you know better, you do better. So first, give us some DNA tests for free. Ancestry.com got to come up off them coins. Secondly, I don't think we need a big, humongous check.
No.
We need a moderate check to be paid over a period of time. Don't give me a lump sum, because I actually do agree with you, Skyler. You give a poor person $1 million, it's gone in 6 months. Right. They never had $1 million. So instead, give me $3,000 a month for 3 years.
Right. Right.
Also, give me free courses so I can learn financial literacy and how to invest this money and do something with it. Reparations doesn't just have to be a big old check, because that check will be gone. Give me education that you owe me.
I was about to say this. Thank you, Lil D. Thank you. Can I expand on that real quick? This
was my close. I'm done.
No, you good. You good. Okay, so real quick. I'm gonna expand on that, guys, because that's exactly what I believe about when in terms of reparations. It cannot be like both of you said. It can't become just a check in the mail. It will never work that way. However, what are we fixing in terms of reparations? What does it mean to reparate slavery? What did slavery initially do? It wasn't just servitude. It stripped, like she said, your culture, your origin, your language, your gods, your name, everything about you was gone. You became cattle. You became a product, and they had to build from the ground. A whole community had to then build from the ground up. That's why I always say there's only two actual ethnicities in the United States that's true Americans: Native Americans and Black Americans. Those are the only two natives of the United States, because both of them had to bring the ground up their culture in this land. Black Americans don't know. I mean, I'll give you an example. Lil D, what's your last name?
Porter.
Is Porter an African name?
At all.
But ask any.
You can change your last name.
Skyler.
I don't want to change it. I want to know what it was before.
Look at any white person, and of course it varies, but look at any white person. They're gonna have an European last name. Look at any Asian American person. They're gonna have an Asian last name.
And what's your point?
What I'm saying is that what slavery really took was the identity of the black people. And so what I think what we should reparate is, like she said, education. If I was in office and I could do whatever I wanted with reparations, in terms of reparations, I would reparate putting African studies in high schools and middle schools in black communities, and then allowing more opportunity for Black Americans to go to college. It should be far cheaper for black people to go to college and get an education and get that opportunity, because it was stripped from them. You know why? Because that's what she said. That pride comes from the culture. We can't be proud of being Americans if we can't even be proud of being black yet. And that's my outro.
That's a bar.
And that's my outro.
Wow.
That's the special, man.
Yeah, well, that's our first special right there. Lil D, I want to thank you again for
Lil
coming
D,
on.
thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Republicans aren't all that bad, you know. I'm hoping that maybe meeting
You're a little bougie, but you okay.
Okay, see, that's what I like. It's about finding middle ground. And even though I disagree with a lot, and I know we could probably talk about this for another hour or so,
right.
That's what we do here on the show. We try to talk about something interesting,
right.
and then get two different points of view on it.
Right.
My name is Skyler.
My name is Brian.
I'm Lil D.
And hey, man, I appreciate it, y'all. This is a special that's going to be once a month, hopefully. We're always going to have a guest from 979 The Beat. We even might have Lil D come back again. She was great. I mean, girl, you were dropping bombs tonight. And that's what I love about it, man. This is civil discourse, y'all. I appreciate the viewership. I appreciate the love. At O'Neal Hesson 12 on all social media.
Oh, he's got to get his clout up. Okay.
You know, I'm on Insta, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. You already know what it is. I mean, hey, guys, I appreciate it, man.
We'll catch you all on the flip side.
Gang, gang.